Right, I decided to make a video while I was grading your lab. So that way, hopefully, you can get a little bit of feedback. I will say this, though. It is Monday afternoon, and I still have a lot of labs to grade. So I've actually provided more feedback with students, prior students, the ones earlier from this week. But again, I'm kind of in a hurry. So mostly what I'm going to do is just record myself while I'm grading it, and I'm going to try to think out loud. So honestly, I can see how some of this might not be the best feedback, but it's still better than nothing. So after watching it, please let me know if you have any questions. And also in the meantime, I'll let you know that if you're watching this video, as in nearly any YouTube video, you can go to the bottom right, there's a little icon screen. Um, if you click on that icon, it'll allow you to speed this up, and I recommend speeding it up because, again, you're watching or listening, whatever, watching and listening to me grade in real time, which isn't really necessary, right? So feel free to speed it up. And also at the end of this, feel free to send me an email. If you allow me to share this video, I'll give you a little bit of extra credit. Anyway, let's move ahead. Let's see what we're dealing with. And I'll try my best to give more feedback, but again, I am kind of in a hurry. So renewable has increased, you're thinking. These are your hypotheses, right? Hydropower, you think, has increased. Wind, you think, has remained the same. We're thinking solar has increased. Geothermal has remained the same. The two different waste biomass you think has decreased. Wood biomass has remained the same. You think solar has seen the largest increase and that waste biomass has the largest decrease. And you think non-renewable energy will have seen the largest increase between the two of them. So those are your hypotheses. Let's look at this data and see if you are correct or not. All right, you have the years. I've been grading a bunch of these. Normally, I would need to check your data against the website to make sure it's correct. But really, I'm just looking for red flags. I've been doing enough. I don't have them memorized, but my eye does generally catch it if there's something off, especially way off. So anyway, let's take a look. So conventional hydropower, we're going from about, 250 to 253, 256. So yeah, it's about an increase of 3. It's a change of 1%. Sure. Wind from about 430 to 454. It's about an increase of 20, which is about 5% of 430. So what? 20 times. So I might need to double check this. Let me think here. I'll just do it. So 20.24 is the difference, right? Divide that by the original, which was 433.99. Multiply that by 100 to get the percent. And what we have here is call it 4.66%. Yeah, I'll go with that. Very good. And I forgot to mention this, but as I'm sure it seems like you paid attention to the directions where it said you can round up to one, a whole number, or one decimal place, or two decimal places, whatever you choose, as long as you're consistent. I can tell right now that you were consistent, so good job with that. Also, I want to mention, on a completely different note, you might hear a bunch of screaming in the background. It's because it's Monday afternoon, and I'm working from home, and my son just got home, and he's playing online, and I guess that's what they do. Anyway, so again, wind went up about 5%. Good. Solar from about 140 to about 230, so that's a big increase. About 90. Yeah, that sounds about right. 62%. So we're saying 90 is 60%. Yeah, that sounds about right. Geothermal from 16.09 to 15.99. That's a very small change, but it was a change indeed. And this is right on the border. So what I'm going to have to do here, again, not because there's any red flags, there's nothing you did wrong, but because these numbers are tied, I need to see which one's lower, because that is one of the questions you're going to have to answer later, right? Which one had the lowest increase? So let's say 0.1 is the difference, right? Negative point. Whoops, excuse me. Start over. Calculate. We have 0.1 divided by 16.09. Multiply that by 100 to get the percentage. So we have 0.62%, right? So for our own knowledge, we know that 1 is actually 0.62%. I'm not going to deduct any points because you were consistent. You rounded it up to the whole number. But let's look at waste biomass, see what we're dealing with there. Waste biomass, we have 0.16, dividing that by the original number, which is 11.74. Multiply that. Excuse me. I have to restart it. I apologize. I'm in such a hurry that I'm slowing myself down. Anyway, 0.16 is the difference, technically negative. Divided by the original, which is 11.74. That gives us the decimal, multiply that by 100 to make it a percentage. So we're looking at 1.36. So once again, you did the correct thing. And you rounded it to 1. So that's good. So we know, now that I've cleared it up, that technically, I'm going to circle it here just to remind myself, technically, waste biomass saw the larger decrease than geothermal. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why I even went through all that, because I can see right here that wood biomass had a larger decrease anyway. So it really didn't matter which of those two had a larger increase. Anyway, technically, too, let me point this out before we move forward. Technically, if you did not round up, we would say geothermal did not have a change, and we would say waste biomass had a decrease, right? But because you rounded, and that's fine, we will say, I'm going to write this down for my own notes to refer back to. The ones that had a decrease were geothermal. Geo saw a decrease. Waste biomass saw a decrease. Wood biomass saw a decrease. And non-renewable saw a decrease. Yeah. And again, geothermal could also be considered the same. So whatever, as long as you say decreased or remained the same, you'll get that one correct. So let's move forward. Overall, you were correct. It did increase. Good. Conventional, you were correct. It did increase slightly. Good. Wind, you were incorrect because it actually increased. Correct. Solar, you were correct because it increased. Geothermal, you were incorrect because it decreased. And again, I'll remind you, yes, that will work. Technically, it stayed the same, but because you decided to round up, which is acceptable by that definition, you could argue that it did decrease. Waste did decrease. Good. Wood, you were correct. It decreased. Good. Solar had the largest increase. Let me double check the math while we're here, because that sounds correct. Yep, by far, solar did have the largest increase. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but all this math looks good as well. Yeah. Anyway, geothermal waste bio, solar saw the largest increase. Wood saw the largest decrease. Yep, that is correct, which is interesting because depending on your years, you might have different results. But yeah, and for the years you chose, that is correct. All right, so that's all the analyzation questions. Now let's have a little bit of reflection. So we said solar saw the largest increase. Why? What is it about solar that makes it different than the other renewable energy sources that made it increase more than the rest? Solar energy saw the largest increase, and I think that's because the exposure of solar energy is rapidly increasing. But that's a given, right? Of course, it is increasing. Well, let me come back to that. Along with the knowledge and its benefits growing. I'll accept this. I think what you're saying here is people are becoming more aware of solar, and that to me is unique. And you did say you guessed, so there's no need to look it up, right? But yeah, you see this big push in my experience. I am seeing more of a push for solar than anything else, right? There's commercials for companies that come out and give you solar panels on your house, but I haven't seen any commercials for people who are willing to build me a dam for hydroelectric power on my property or put a big wind turbine, right? So yeah, I'll go with that. So the next question is kind of the opposite. It's addressing the one that saw the largest decrease, which was wood. So what is it about wood versus the rest of them that caused it to see the largest decrease? And you put, I think that wood biomass saw the largest decrease because of the fossil fuels that have come to be used in order to attain the firewood. Okay, that's good, right? Yeah, because it's not like the trees. Well, it's not like you can just go pick a tree up, right? You've got to usually cut them down, transport them. Very good. Also, possibly the deforestation. Very good. Not only did you provide one reason, you provided two reasons. Very, very good. I think that the renewable energies, like I said, this next question is saying, this is a big picture question. Are we seeing more Are we using more energy altogether? Are we using more only renewable energy? Let's take a look. I think that renewable energy consumption increased because more awareness is being brought forth about its benefits. I agree. And more people are looking towards a cleaner. Yeah, makes sense to me. And again, that's just a speculation question. Most people don't get that wrong as long as they correctly address the question, and as long as they don't say something incorrect in their statement. Anyway, the last question is basically saying, you looked at why look at multiple years? Why not just the most recent year? Excuse me, let me fix this before it kicks us out. There we go. And you put it is important to see numbers consistently increasing, declining, remaining the same to acquire more accurate. Yeah, exactly, right? We don't need a snapshot, because if you took a snapshot, you would see, if I were to ask you based on 2024 data and say, hey, which energy source is the most popular? And it's wind. But getting this bigger picture, now we're looking at trends, and we can see even though wind is the most popular currently, as far as like it's, I don't want to say popular, but producing more than anything else, right? Solar is increasing more. So eventually, based on this data, we could expect solar to overtake wind. And speaking of that, that is an extra credit opportunity for you that I didn't list at the end of this document. But if you want to, you can use some pretty basic math to determine when solar will overtake wind. Based on wind starting at 454.23 in 2024 and increasing 5% per year, and based on solar starting at 231.86 and increasing by 62% per year, at what point will what year will solar overtake wind? So go ahead and do that for extra credit if you want. It's one of those things that takes a lot of effort. And notice I didn't tell you what kind of math, right? You need to be able to figure that out. So even if you get the question, even if you do it and your math is a little bit off, you'll still get some extra credit as long as it's not completely off, right? This is a thought exercise. So you will get credit for attempting it, right? If you figure out what you need to do and you just happen to do it a little bit wrong, then you'll be okay. Anyway, now let's look at your graph. This has been a Achilles heel for a lot of your classmates, and it seems like you too. So I will put it next here. You did lose 1 point because we need to know when, right? So we're saying we see it's a percent change, but from when to when, right? And yes, I see it in the table. I can look, but the idea, and I keep reiterating this, a graph should make sense to somebody out of context. You should be able to show somebody this graph and not the rest of your lab, and they should know what it means, right? So again, either your title or the y-axis should mention what year we're looking at, or what time frame we're looking at. Another thing that would make this improved, but I have not deducted points for it, I just want to bring it out there, or put it out there, should also mention that we're looking at, when we're talking about change in the consumption of renewable energy, at least you did put consumption, that helps. But you might want to put something like in kilowatt hours, right? Because that's the percent, right? The percent change was from this many billions of kilowatt hours to that many billions of kilowatt hours. But what this could mean, since there's no clarification, is this could be like, what kind of, when we're talking about consumption, are we talking about how much money is spent, right? Like, so is this much more money being spent on solar than this much, right? Are we talking about wind, or excuse me, good grief, I was reading that. Are we talking about a percent change in the amount of money spent? Are we talking about a percent change in the amount of profits for that energy sector? Are we talking about the percent change of households that are using a particular type of energy? Are we talking about a percent change of the population of America who are using different types of energy, right? I could go on and on. So you're on the right track. You didn't lose points for that, but it would be improved if you indicated that that's the change we're looking at. Anyway, so far that's the only point you missed. Let's see if you have any extra credit. It doesn't. Ooh, look at that. All right, so this might take me some time. I feel bad. You've got a longer video. But yeah, let's take a look at this extra credit. So before I do that, let me give you your grade for this, because this extra credit will be extra credit, right? It's not even going towards your lab. It's just going towards your total. Actually, you know what? Forget I said that. Let me move forward. Really, I'm trying to make this quick, especially since I've explained a lot of my reasoning previously. Now I can just kind of fly through this. So for your hypotheses, you think a non-renewable increased, which is interesting that you would make that hypothesis. I wonder how the order in which you did this, because you already did this table, right? And we see the non-renewable actually decreased. So I'm actually curious as to how that happened. I can see how it happened. I'm just curious as to exactly how it happened. But anyway, you think non-renewable increased. You think natural gas remained the same, coal increased, nuclear decrease, pump storage same, petroleum increase, other gas increase. You think petroleum saw the largest increase and that nuclear energy saw the largest decrease. Um, and you think non-renewable energy saw a larger increase than renewable, which is interesting again, because the way I picture this is you did the first lab and then you went and did the second lab, in which case you would know that's not true. But I'm making assumptions here. It could be that, even better, if you did this the really correct way, you would have done your hypotheses for the first lab, you would have done your hypotheses for this second lab, and then you would have gone back and tested it. So I'm going to assume that's exactly what you did. Anyway, let's look at your table. You've got the years. That's good. Natural gas went up. So that's about 10%. So about 10% of that would be about 150. Yeah, looks good. Coal went down by about 200. 200 is about what? Not half, but a quarter. So 25. Yep. That's good. Nuclear went up a little bit, about 23%. That sounds good, because 1% would be 7 times 3 would be 21. Yeah, okay. Pumped hydro storage. I won't even talk about this one. That's so weird. The fact that it's negatives, I'm just going to completely skip that and not waste my time or your time. But I will say this. I don't know what this means. I've looked at the website. I see that it has a negative energy usage. I don't know. I guess that just means it's using more energy than it's producing to pump the water where it needs to go. But either way, you can look that up for extra credit if you want. Write a paper on that. What does this mean? How can we have negative? Anyway, petroleum from about 22 to down to about 18. So yeah, that's a small change. So we'll call that about 4, right? So 4 out of 20, if you want to call it that. That's what? So 4, 16, 21, about 16. Yep. Yeah, sounds about right. Anyway, sorry. Other gases, we're saying 3.45 down to 3, so that did decrease a little bit. Looks good. Renewable total up. Oh, yeah, we've already done this, right? So, yeah, that looks good. All right, let's move quickly. I'm trying to save your time here. I was incorrect. It actually decreased. So technically, actually, good grief. I'm so sorry to be going back and forth. So I can tell here, this is actually, you also needed to repeat your hypothesis, right? So I can tell already that you're going to lose a lot of points, because I assume when somebody makes that mistake, they keep making that mistake. So that will actually hurt your first grade. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and grade your first lab, and then we'll worry about this as your extra credit lab, right? So your first lab, like we said, you missed 1. Where are we at here? I apologize for the wait. Here we go. You missed 1. I'm going to pull up the calculator to show you the math. So the total points, total possible is 39. This is really easy math. I'm doing it on the calculator to show you anyway. Minus 1 is 38, divided by the original, which again was 39. And that gives us your percentage, which is about 97%. Multiply that by the total points possible, which is 25. And we get your grade, which is 24.36. 24.36. Good. Now then, so this other lab is going to be completely extra credit. I'm going to add it to, your entire extra credit grade, not just this lab, which will help, because I have a feeling you're going to lose. It's not that you're losing any points because this is extra credit, but because of this mistake, you're going to not be getting a bunch of points, right? So that's minus 1 there. Actually, it's minus half, because you did answer it. It's just you didn't repeat your hypothesis. And that is important. I know it seems redundant, but students very often lack the ability to reflect back on their hypothesis and compare it to their data and see if it was correct or not. So this kind of not forces, but it pushes you towards doing that, right? So you've already got it. You already have to repeat it So it's really, forcing you to look at your hypothesis again. A lot of times students just write their hypothesis and then never come back to it. So anyway, half a point there. And I will admit, it was a little tricky because the first lab didn't have that. So I apologize for the confusion. Anyway, so overall, non-renewable did decrease. That is correct. Natural gas overall did increase. That is correct. But again, half a point because you didn't repeat your hypothesis. Coal, you were correct because it decreased. Good. Except again, half a point for not repeating your hypothesis. Did the consumption of nuclear? Nuclear, you were incorrect because it increased. Again, that is correct, but half a point for not doing the hypothesis. Hydro storage, I'm only going to take away that half a point for not repeating the hypothesis. Other than that, I don't want to address it because the fact that it has negative data in there to begin with is just odd. Anyway, petroleum, you were correct because it decreased. Let me double check that. Bear with me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take notes while I'm here. The only ones that decreased were coal, petroleum, other gases, and non-renewable. All right, so those are my notes. We were left off on petroleum. Petroleum, you were incorrect. It decreased. All right. Actually, that is a correct statement. But again, half a point for not repeating the hypothesis. Of all of them, which ones saw the largest increase? Natural gas. Let me double check that. Natural gas was a 9% increase. Yep. Very good. So not only is natural gas the most used, but it also increased the most. Kind of different than the non-renewables or the renewables, right? With solar, it was not the most used, but it's up and coming more than anything else. Anyway, shoot, I got ahead of myself. Other gases, you were correct because it decreased. Sorry, that is also half a point for not repeating the hypothesis. And here's where we left off. Sorry. So natural gas did see the largest increase. Again, you need to repeat the hypothesis. So that's half a point. Like we just discussed, you were incorrect because coal saw the largest decrease. But again, half a point for the hypothesis issue. Then you were incorrect because renewable saw a larger increase. That is correct. All right. So another half a point. Again, for not repeating your hypothesis. But let me look at one more thing. Incorrect. So all your hypotheses were incorrect, which is okay. You're not losing points for that. So again, just remind you, you lost points, or because this is extra credit, you didn't get as many points because you didn't repeat your hypothesis. So feel free to resubmit, even though this is extra credit. You can if you want. Anyway, again, we needed to create a graph, and as of now, it doesn't look like there is one. So I'm gonna go ahead and put, 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 4 more. Assuming you didn't, who knows? I might go to the next page and see one. Yes, like that. So I take those 4, give you those 4 points back. Anyway, you can just let me get rid of these X marks. Gone. All right, non-renewable energy source consumption. Again, just the 1 point for the reason I mentioned earlier. You need to put the years, and also it would be improved, but you're not losing points for the fact that you're not talking about the fact this is a change in billions of kilowatt hours. So 6. All right, next. Any extra credit? This is the extra credit. All right, so for your extra credit lab, we're still dealing with out of 39 points. So I'm pull the calculator up again. All right, out of 39, you missed 6, which means you got 33 out of 39 correct. So we'll do 33 divided by 39, which gives you your percentage, which is about 84.62%. Multiply that by the total points possible, which is 25. So you have 21.15 points of extra credit. And I'm going to apply that again to your whole extra credit, not to this lab, because it'll help you more overall. So 21.16. 21.16 points of extra credit. See this video for feedback and possible extra credit. So to remind you, the extra credit here would be you allowing me to share this video, in which case you just need to reply and let me know. So I thank you for your time. Hopefully you watch this video and I'm not just talking to myself, but even if that is the case, that's all right, because you didn't ask me to make you this video. But there we go. Have a good day.